Hi, Laurie. So let's take a look at a couple of the problems that you're having trouble with, starting with number 5. So I have your problem open up right here. It looks like you were able to get part A correct. However, let's take a look at that again, because even though you got the answer correct, it does say round to 2 decimal places. So let's find this answer, and also just to make sure you did get it using StatCrunch correctly. And so remember, StatCrunch, all we're going to do is going to go to Stat, Calculators, Normal, whenever we want to do any normal calculation. And again, what I was talking about is it's going to ask for the mean standard deviation, and then it gives us a probability type of statement here, whereas we're finding the probability of this, and it'll tell us the answer or the probability here on the right side. If we want a boundary on the left and the right, then we just click the between button, and it'll give us that option to put both sides. In any case, on the question, it's asking us what's the percentage or probability, same thing, of adults who have stage 2 high blood pressure, which would be defined as 160 or higher. Well, we can just put in the mean, which was 121, and a standard deviation of 20, so we'll type those in. And then it's going to say 160 or higher, so that would be greater than or equal to 160. And we get an answer of 0.0255, and if we round it, 6. So we get 0.02556. Sorry, round that 5 to a 6. 0.256. And so if we're looking at this number, and the question itself is asking us for the percentage, so we got to turn that proportion or that decimal into a percentage here. And so the way we do that is we just move the decimal place 2 spots or multiply it by 100, and we see that we actually get 2.56%. So that would be the correct answer for part A. Now part B, here it starts talking about sampling now. It says, okay, if we sampled 2,000 people, how many would you expect to have blood pressure of greater than 160? And it says give it to the nearest person. And so if we're looking at this, this is actually not asking us to do any normal distribution calculation. It's making sure we understand our answer from part A. What is this percentage? It's not just a random number. It actually represents the percentage of adults who have high blood pressure, which is 160 or higher. And so if they're telling us, okay, we took 2,000 people, and I expect 2.56% of them to have high blood pressure, well, then we would expect 2.56% of the 2,000 to have high blood pressure. How many people would that be? Well, as we've done with any percentages, we're just going to multiply it. So this times 2.56%, or 0.0256. And if we do that on a calculator, I get about 51 if we round to the nearest whole number. So 51 people. And that's actually the answer for part B, 51 people. Now part C says stage 1 is if you're between 140 and 160. So notice we have a left boundary and a right boundary. So how do we do that using StatCrunch? Again, using the between button. So we see clicking on between gives us an area to put the left and the right side. So as it stated, we want to be between 140 and 160. Compute, and we get our answer, which is 1455 if we round to 4 decimal places. So 0.1455, and it's marking you wrong. Oh, because if we take a look at the question, it's not asking for the percentage or the probability or the proportion, but specifically percentage. So again, we need to rewrite it as a percentage. So if we have 0.1455, you can again either multiply by 100%, or you can just move the decimal place, but this gives you 14.55%. And let's see. 14.55, so that's that piece. Then lastly, it says here, your doctor tells you that you are in the 30th percentile, and we want to know what's the blood pressure. So notice they gave you the percentage this time. It's like they gave you the answer to these problems here. And we want to know what's the blood pressure, what's the boundary. So going back to what a percentile represents, we learned this back in Unit 1. What is a percentile? Is again the percentage that's lower than you. So if we have this normal distribution and we're trying to find the 30th percentile, we're trying to figure out what is this boundary. I want to know what is this value where it cuts off 30% that's below us. Well, this is what the inverse version of the calculator is for, is if I know how much is to the left, I can type that into the area section of the calculator and it'll fill in the boundary for me. So going back to StatCrunch, we still have the same mean, same standard deviation, and we want to be in the area to the left, so I'll choose the less than area, and I don't want to put anything here. What I know is that 30%, or an area of 0.30, is what we want to cut off. And I do compute, and it'll fill it in for me. So this right here, this boundary, is this number right here. And what does that number give me? Is it's a boundary that's going to cut off 30%. So that's the boundary we're looking for, 110.51. And I assume they want us to round it in some way. Round to 2 decimal places, so 110.51. I don't know why it says pounds there. 0.6. That's not 2 decimal places, but it'll probably count it as correct. The next problem you're having trouble with is number 13. So here we have the mean, we have the standard deviation for both men and for women. And here it's asking what percentage of men are shorter than 6'3", round to the nearest percent. So one thing we need to watch out for here is it's saying 6'3", but that's in feet and inches, versus our mean and standard deviation are just in inches. So we need to make sure that we convert these things into just completely inches. So doing that, part B. Six feet 3 inches would be the same thing as 6 times 12, since there's 12 inches in a foot, plus those extra 3 inches. So that would be 72 plus 3 is 75. And so what we have is we have this normal distribution, and we want to be shorter than, so less than or equal to, or just the less than 75 inches. The mean we're talking about here are men, so it's 69.4 and a standard deviation of 2.62. And we want to be shorter than 75. So we're looking for this area here. So again, we have the boundary, and I want to know what's the area, what's the probability. So looking at how we do this on StatCrunch, we'll go put in the mean. And our standard deviation. And we want to be less than our boundary of 75 inches. Calculate, I get 0.9837. So the area is 0.9837. Now, of course, this is again asking for a percentage, so we just have to convert it to a percentage. So 9837 would be 98.4. You put that answer in. So this is the same thing. Just make sure you're just switching it around. Then finally, who is relatively taller? This is just like what was on the first exam. Just looking at their z-scores, which you calculated. The woman has a higher z-score, so the woman is taller relative to their gender.